Pagod ka na ba galing sa trabaho? At gutom na sa maghapong pagtatrabaho? Pero wala kang pagkain sa bahay? Narito na ang sagot mga katropa. Ang Superman of Lechon. Napapawi sa inyong gutom at siguradong mapapa-anirize ka dahil sa tender juicy na jam mo pa. At siguradong malinis at bagong katay buhat sa farm. Kaya super masalasa at pangmasa pa. Ano pa hinihintay niyo mga katropa? Takbo na sa Superman of Panteño Siniluan at bumili na. Baka maabusan ka, katropa. Responsable ka ng gun owner? At mahaba ba ang iyong pasensya? At hindi ba initin ang iyong ulo? Alam mo rin ba ang batas hinggil sa pag-iingat ng baril o firearms? Kung hindi,
A responsible gun owner.
Are you a responsible gun owner?
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 Are you a responsible gun owner? The PNP Civil Security Group would like to advise all firearms holders to renew their license to own and possess firearms and firearms registration within 6 months before its expiry date. Tumawag na at makipag-ugnayan.
Be a responsible gun owner.
One Gun Pilipinas ang sagot mga katropa at kaganos. Dahil ituturo sa inyo ng One Gun Pilipinas o OGP ang lahat ng legal na paraan at proseso upang ikaw ay maging isang responsableng gun owners. Ano pa hinihintay nyo mga kaganers? Sali na sa One Gun Pilipinas ngayon na. Responsable ka ng gun owner? At mahaba ba ang iyong pasensya? At hindi ba initin ang iyong ulo? Alam mo rin ba ang batas hinggil sa pag-iingat ng baril o firearms? Kung hindi,
A responsible gun owner.
Are you a responsible gun owner?
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 Are you a responsible gun owner? The PNP Civil Security Group would like to advise all firearms holders to renew their license to own and possess firearms and firearms registration within 6 months before its expiry date. Tumawag na at makipag-ugnayan.
Be a responsible gun owner.
One Gun Pilipinas ang sagot mga katropa at kaganos. Dahil ituturo sa inyo ng One Gun Pilipinas o OGP ang lahat ng legal na paraan at proseso upang ikaw ay maging isang responsableng gun owners. Ano pa hinihintay nyo mga kaganers? Sali na sa One Gun Pilipinas ngayon na. Responsable ka ng gun owner? At mahaba ba? Barangay, pangunahing unit ng pamahalang lokal kung saan dito pinag-uusapan ang bawat sinalot ng mga residente ng bawat barangay. Dito rin pinag-uusapan ng mga piling halal na opisyal na barangay ang mga proyekto para sa kanilang barangay. Kumustahin natin ang panunungkulan ni Kapitan dito sa Dalo Barangay sa Millennial Online TV Worldwide, ang katropa ng bawat barangay.
Ating tinatapos ang ating pagpupulong. Maraming salamat po sa inyong pagdalo at tapos na po ang ating session. Enjoy na po tayo.
Now, we are
Talakayin.
Biggest destruction of dangerous drugs worth 1.
Rebisahin. Opinyon. Malawakin. Aksyonan. Kasama si ROCEL LOPEZ, ang inyong katropa sa pagbabalita. Dito lang sa Millennial Online TV. Tutok na mga katropa!
Good evening, Luz Biminda. Magandang gabi, Pilipinas. Magandang gabi, Luzon, Visayas at Mindanao. At ngayon po ay araw ng Huwebes. At syempre sa inyo po ang Thursday edition ng programang Tropa. Ang oras po sa udyat, alas 6:15 ng gabi. Ngayon po ay ka-siyam na ng Nobyembre, buwan ng Nobyembre taong 2023. At syempre po kung yung magiging kasama dito sa programang Tropa, ROCEL LOPEZ. At nako mga kaibigan, alamin natin kanina biglang bumuhos ang ulan. Yun nga sinasabi ng PagAsa lagi, may mga panakanakang pagulan, no? May mga minsan uulan, minsan maaraw. Kanina ho kasi napakatindi na sikat ng araw. Tapos biglang kumulimlim. Ayun, bandang hapon, umulan na. Mga after lunch. Ba't kaya? Mamaya malalaman natin yan sa katropa natin si Patrick Del Mundo. Isa po sa katropa nating weather specialist ng DOST PagAsa. Maya-maya lang po yan. At bukod dyan, hanggang sa ngayon ba, hindi pa rin natatapos po mga katropa. Yung paghingi ng hustisya ng mga Pilipino na biktima o yung mga comfort women. Ano na ba, nananawagan sila kay Pangulong Bongbong Marcos. Di ba nililink nila noon dyan Marcos? Malalaman natin mamaya. Doon po sa sinagawang Pandesal Forum dyan sa QC. No? Yung pong mga justice, humingi ng hustisya ang mga Pilipinong comfort women. Mamaya lang po yan, malalaman natin. Okay mga kaibigan, magandang gabi sa inyong lahat at maganda sa ating mga katropa, mga kuya, ate. At sa lahat po ng mga taga-subaybay ng programang Tropa, siyempre dito lang sa Millennial Online TV News and Updates. At ako, nakita ko unang-una sa aking monitor, yung nanonood si aking dating cameraman sa TV5, si Boss Mark Castro. Palakpakan natin. At siyempre, nakita ko rin nanonood din sa atin ngayon yung si Kagawad, Brian Anyosa ng Barangay Kulyat dyan sa QC. Kumusta na ba Kagawad? Mukhang nagkaroon ka pa ng aftershock after ng eleksyon. Siyempre, natural, magpahinga ka naman. Siyempre, katakot-takot na pag-iikot yun, pakikipag-usap sa mga tao, lalo na dyan sa inyo sa Kulyat, napakaraming tao dyan. Natural lang na mag-rest ka, rest mode, after ng eleksyon. Anyway, congratulations sa'yo, Kagawad Brian Anyosa. Palakpakan nga natin si Kagawad. Alam niyo po, si Kagawad ay dati pong nagpo-programa po dito sa atin sa Millennial Online TV. Kaso nga lang, medyo nahinto dahil siyempre, alam niyo naman, nag-aaral si katropang Brian. After that, sinuong po ang mundo ng politika. Pero hindi naman talagang mapapahiya o hindi magsisisi ang mga taga-Kulyat kay Kagawad Brian Anyosa. Dahil po siya SK pa lang, nagserbisyo na, what for pa ngayong kagawad na siya, di ba, ng Barangay Kulyat dyan sa QC. Congratulations sa ulit, katropang Brian. Hindi na kita ma-reach. Kailan ka ba magpapasyal dito para ma-guest kita sa programang Dalaw Barangay? alam mo namimiss na rin kita. Hindi na kita ma-reach ngayon kagawad ka na Iba na ang iyong estado ngayon. Ika nga ikaw ay kagalang-galang, it means ng kagawad, di ba? Siyempre po, halal po ng bayan yan Halal ng mga kabarangay niya. So natural lang na irespeto po, no? At siyempre, yan talaga nagpursige dahil gusto niya pang makatulong, no, sa kanilang barangay. At siyempre, yung barangay captain din doon, no, na kailangan din na magserbisyo para may pagpatuloy pa yung kanilang mga proyekto at mga dapat gawin sa kanilang mga constituent. Tama ba yun, Kuya Kagawad Brian Anyosa? At siya nga po pala, si Kagawad Brian Anyosa at the same time ay miyembro po ng The Fraternal Order of Eagles. Excuse me po, medyo nasamid ako, may nakaalala. Okay mga kaibigan, alas 6:20 na po ng gabi Philippine Standard Time. At huwag na natin patagalin, alamin na natin sa DOST PagAsa ang lagay ng ating panahon, no? Buhat sa ating katropang si Patrick Del Mundo. Narito po.
Magandang umaga po sa ating lahat. Ngayon ay araw ng Huwebes, November 9, 2023 at narito magiging lagay ng panahon para sa buong maghapon at sa mga susunod pang mga araw. Sa kasalukuyan, patuloy yung ating monitoring dito sa low pressure area. Huli nating namataan sa may layong 395 kilometers sa may west-southwest ng Puerto Princesa City sa may Palawan. Itong nasabing low pressure area ay nananatiling mababa yung tsansa na maging isang bagyo sa mga susunod na mga araw at possible na lumabas ang ating Philippine Area of Responsibility ngayong araw. Samantalang patuloy yung pag-iral ng northeast monsoon sa may bahagi ng extreme northern Luzon at sa nalalabing bahagi naman ng ating bansa, umiiral itong tinatawag natin na easterlies o yung mainit na hangin na nagmumula sa karagatang Pasipiko. Kaya naman sa buong maghapon, possible din na maging maulap yung kalangitan sa lahat na nasa silangang bahagi ng ating bansa at magiging madalas din yung mga thunderstorms. At para naman sa magiging lagay ng panahon ngayong araw sa Kalakhang Luzon, asahan natin ng maulap na kalangitan na may kalat-kalat na mga pag-ulan, pagkidlat at pagkulog dito sa may bahagi ng Palawan kasama na sa Calayan Islands dahil pa rin sa epekto ng low pressure area. Samantalang ang hanging amihan naman ang nakakaapekto sa extreme northern Luzon na magdadala ng maulap na kalangitan na may mga pag-ulan o may hinang pag-ulan o pag-ambon sa may bahagi ng Batanes at Cagayan kasama na sa Babuyan Islands at sa nalalabing bahagi ng Luzon kasama na dyan ng Metro Manila, bahagi maulap hanggang sa maulap na kalangitan na may mga pulo-pulong mga pag-ulan, pagkidlat at pagkulog, especially sa hapon at sa gabi. Agwat ang temperatura sa may lawag nasa 24 to 33 degrees Celsius, sa may Metro Manila at Tuguegarao nasa 24 to 32 degrees Celsius, sa may bahagi naman ng Baguio City 17 to 26, Tagaytay at Puerto Princesa 23 to 30, sa may Legazpi 25 to 32 at dito naman sa may Calayan Islands ay 24 to 30 degrees Celsius. At para naman sa magiging lagay ng panahon sa Kalakhang, Visayas at Mindanao, asahan sa buong maghapon ang generally fair weather conditions. May mga tsansa lamang ng mga isolated na mga pag-ulan, pagkidlat at pagkulog na magiging madalas pa rin dito sa may bahagi ng Zamboanga Peninsula at sa may Basilan, Sulu-Tawi-Tawi dahil pa rin sa lapit ng low pressure area. At ang agwat ng temperatura dito sa may bahagi ng Iloilo ay nasa 27 to 32 degrees Celsius. Dito naman sa may Metro Cebu at sa may Kitacloban, 26 to 32. Sa may Cagayan de Oro ay 25 to 31, sa may Metro Davao at sa may Zamboanga City, 25 to 33 degrees Celsius. At para naman sa lagay ng ating karagatan, sa ngayon wala tayong nakataas na gale warning sa naman baybayin ng ating bansa, kaya naman malaya pa rin makakapalaot ng ating mga kababayang mga isda at may maliliit na sasakyang pandagat. Iba yung pag-iingat lamang sa mga papalaot sa mga baybayin ng Northern Luzon, kung saan maaari pa rin makaranas ang katamtaman hanggang sa matataas sa mga pag-alon, dulot yan ng hanging amihan. At para naman sa ating 3-day weather outlook, simula bukas, araw ng Biyernes, hanggang sa weekend, aasahan natin na generally for weather conditions sa malaking bahagi ng ating bansa, magkakaroon lamang ng mga isolated rain showers and thunderstorms. And by Saturday evening hanggang Sunday na umaga, inaasahan natin na magkakaroon ng panibagong bugso ng hanging amihan kung saan makakaapekto ito sa may bahagi ng Northern Luzon. Agwat ng temperatura sa may Metro Manila ay nasa 24 to 32 degrees Celsius, sa may Baguio City 16 to 25, sa may Legazpi ay nasa 25 to 33, Metro Cebu 26 to 33 at dito naman sa may Metro Davao ay 25 to 34 degrees Celsius. At ang haring araw ay sisikat ngayong 5:54 ng umaga at lulubog naman mamayang 5:25 ng gabi. At para sa karagdagang updates, lalong-lalo na sa mga thunderstorm and rainfall advisories, ugaling bisitahin ng ating social media accounts, DOST_PagAsa. At para sa karagdagang impormasyon, bisitahin ang ating website, pagasa.dost.gov.ph. At yan po muna ang latest mula dito sa PagAsa Weather Forecasting Center. Ito po si Patrick Del Mundo. Magandang umaga po sa ating lahat.
Ayun, maraming salamat sa iyo, katropang Patrick Del Mundo. At nagatid po yan sa atin sa oras na alas 6:24 po ng gabi, oras sa buong Kapuluan. At malino naman po, no, may nakita nga low pressure area o LPA, pero malabo raw maging bagyo na nasa may bahagi ng Puerto Princesa sa Palawan. Tama lang naman yun, no? Sana talagang wag maging bagyo. Lalo na ngayon, ako magpapasko, paksyo na, dapat wala ka muna bagyo. Huwag ka munang bibisita, no, sa bawat bansa. Manahimik ka muna para naman maging masaya naman ang Pasko ng bawat tao dahil alam mo naman na dumali ang pandemic. No, medyo natigang din sa paggunita sa Pasko tsaka sa pagsalubong sa bagong taon ang mga tao. Kaya stay put ka lang, stay where you are, bagyo. Okay mga kaibigan, alas 6:25 na ng gabi, Philippine Standard Time. At tuloy-tuloy po tayo sa ating programang Tropa. At yun nga, tulad na sinabi natin sa inyo, yung pong mga biktima, no, ng karahasan noong panahon daw, di umano, ng dating Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos, yung mga umihingi ng hustisya, no, yung justice for Filipino comfort women, no? Ito po ay nagsagawa ng isang forum diyan po sa may Kamuning Bakery sa Quezon City, no? Ito po ang Pandesal Forum kung saan po nandun po yung Senator Rita Angsi, no? At iba pang mga sinasabing di umano'y biktima na ng karahasan, sinasabing panahon po ng dating Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos. Pero ngayon ay nananawagan po sila sa Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr., Bongbong Marcos Jr. dito po sa ito pong mga biktima ng karahasan. So mga kaibigan, panoorin natin pero pwede kayong mag-comment. Kasi ako, hindi ko naman inaabot yun So, yung mga nakaabot yan siguro makakapagsabi ng totoo, how true, na talaga sila naging biktima ng karahasan noong panahon ng Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos. No? Pero may mga patunay naman, katulad ng mga bombing, hindi naman pala ang Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Sr. ang may pakulo, no? So, kalaban sa politika. So, mga kaibigan, bahala na po kayo magkomento dyan po sa ating chat box at pwede nating iparating sa kinauukulan. Narito po.
A joint session of the Philippine Congress, I think at 11 a.m. today, and who also had a meeting with President Ferdinand yesterday at Malacanang. We are supposed to be joined by, we are joined here this morning by Ms. Tessie Angsi, who is the lead convener of the Flowers for Lola's campaign, for some welcome remarks.
Thank you, Sharon. Good morning, everyone. Isang magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Thank you for joining us in this event. Well, for those who don't know, the Flowers for Lola's campaign was formed in 2018 to protest against the Philippine government funding to Japanese pressure and remove our statue, our Comfort Women statue, located at Rojas Boulevard, corner Quirino Avenue. Okay, it was a very prominent place. In the middle of the night, it was removed secretly, and until now, our efforts to retrieve that statue has not succeeded. So, but that event, the removal of the statue, pushed us to organize ourselves into an aggregation called Flowers for Lola's campaign. No? We are joined by Kaisaka, we are joined by Lila Filipina, Gabriela, sila Princess Nemenso's group, Women's Health, the Huachi, descendants of the Huachi guerrillas, Tulay Foundation, and Kaisa para sa Kaunlaran. Okay, so the Flowers for Lola's campaign organized many activities, forums, rallies, protest rallies, several talks, exhibits on the comfort women in universities and many other organizations. We are happy that removal of the statue gave us this chance to increase awareness on the issue of the comfort women that our Philippine government refused to recognize and acknowledge. So, with the presence of the Japanese Prime Minister Ishida now, we reiterate our demand that the Japanese government recognize the comfort women and make reparations for them. There are very few survivors left. No? One of them is Lola Estelita here, 93 years old. Okay? So before they pass away, we want the government to finally give recognition to this issue of the comfort women. And we protest that it is not true that the government announcement that reparations had already been given in 1945 is not true. If they refuse to even recognize them, how could reparation have been given when they cannot even acknowledge that these comfort women are here with us? So later on, Attorney Virgie Suarez will talk about the CEDAW resolution forcing our Philippine government to take action on this issue. It was passed only last March 8, 2023. So what happened? What is the government reaction to this CEDAW resolution? Instead of acting on it, they continue to deny and refuse to acknowledge these comfort women. Last and most importantly, we want the government to put pressure on the Philippine government to give back our statue, our comfort women statue, to build memorials and shrines recognizing and commemorating these women victims of aggression during the Japanese war. Before they pass on, we want the government itself also to give reparations, not only the Japanese government, but the Philippine government itself. We allowed Japan to put up memorials and shrines honoring their dead soldiers who killed, tortured, raped our men, women, children. We allowed them to put up these shrines and statues. Why cannot the government put up shrines and memorials for our own, recognizing our own comfort women? It is unfair. It is only just that we call on the government to recognize and implement the CEDAW resolution. One of the provisions of which is for the Philippine government to build shrines, memorials, include this issue in the curriculum and history books, and teach children that this thing happened during the war. So thank you for your presence, and we hope this call will be heeded once and for all by our government before the last of the survivors are gone from our midst. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Tessie Yangsi. Two others were supposed to join us this morning, Ana Maria Nemenso, but she expresses her apologies because for medical reasons she turned out she cannot join us today. And Lola Narcisa Claveria also was supposed to come, but also for medical reasons or for health reasons, she also expresses her apology that she cannot come. I would like to read a short statement by Lila Pilipina on the occasion of the visit of the Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida and his address before the joint session of Congress. He expressed deep reservations about the real intent of Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida's visit to the country and his address before a joint session of Philippine Congress. Japan has never fully acknowledged its war crimes against Filipino women, but is now talking again of war measures with the Philippine government, pushing for the adoption of a so-called mutual access agreement that would allow unhampered Japanese troop movements in the country. This Japan apparently hopes to do via an executive agreement similar to the Visiting Forces Agreement and the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement between the Philippines and the U.S., both of which violated provisions in the Philippine Constitution as they were not subjected to congressional concurrence. These two agreements have given license to the full and unhampered operations of U.S. troops in the country and have facilitated complete U.S. control over the country's military and geopolitical affairs. Instead of offering genuine atonement for its wartime crimes, Japan is demanding for a similar arrangement with the Philippines, using tensions in the West Philippine Sea as a smokescreen and its official development assistance as bait to weaken opposition from the Philippine side. Viewed in the context of Japan's role as the U.S. junior partner in the so-called Indo-Pacific framework, this mutual access agreement is nothing but an institutionalization of Japan's military dominance in the region, in which expanding its influence in Philippine geopolitics and economy is a critical step. For Lila Pilipina and other victims, this is shades of World War II, when Japan sought to establish its military might in the region. It is an insult to Filipino women victims of Japanese wartime military abuse. Lila Pilipina calls on patriotic members of both houses of Congress to reject this agreement and instead defend the nation from further violations of its sovereignty and uphold the rights and honor of hundreds, probably thousands of Filipino women brutalized by Japanese imperial rule. This mutual access agreement not only drags the country further into the theater of global conflict, fueled by U.S. warmongering and war profiteering, particularly now during the Middle East crisis, where the U.S. supplies the weaponry with which Israel is conducting genocide of the Palestinian peoples. Japan is following in the footsteps of its senior ally, violating the peace clause of its own constitution by embarking on a several-year program of troop deployment and war spending to develop missile defense technologies, putting the Philippines under the complete control of the U.S.-Japan military alliance turns the country into a pawn in the warmongering of these two countries. It will also mean the country turning host to stockpiles of war armaments, probably including nuclear and chemical weapons, and the exaction of our nation's servitude to the whims of the alliance. Lila Pilipina strongly opposes all wars of aggression. Current and future generations should never experience what our lolas experienced in World War II. No people should be made to shoulder the costs of war profiteering by the world's superpowers. No nation has any right to occupy another. Wars of aggression, wherever they are staged, must be opposed and justice rendered to aggrieved nations and peoples. Thank you very much. So now let's have Attorney Virgie Suarez of the Malaya Lolas to discuss developments in the CEDAW recommendations.
Sige. Magandang umaga sa ating lahat. The Prime Minister's visit here in the Philippines is bereft of any good intention. And that can easily be seen with the fact that after 80 years, Japan has not paid, has not even acknowledged its wrongdoing to the victims of the World War II, to the victims of the military sexual violence, the military sexual slavery. And again, here, Japan is here not to even recognize its wrongdoing, but simply to further and strengthen its own security, as well as the U.S. security. Despite the long struggle of the victims, of all the victims of the military sexual slavery, Japan has not made any effort. And that's the reason why the Malaya Lolas initiated before the UN CEDAW a complaint against our own government, because our own government has also not lifted its finger to help the Lolas or even to take the cause and the case of the Lolas against the Japanese government. Tandaan nyo, Estado yung gumawa, no? Estado yung gumawa ng military sexual slavery. And therefore, hindi pa pwedeng pabayaan ito sa mga lola natin yung pagsasampa ng kaso. Dapat i-take on ng ating gobyerno at responsibility ng ating gobyerno na i-take on yung cause at kaso ng ating mga Malaya Lolas. Kaya doon sa United Nations CEDAW, ano ang sabi? Sabi doon, walang ginawa ang ating gobyerno, no, to help the victims of the military sexual slavery. Walang ginawa ang gobyerno. Kaya sabi doon, responsable ang ating gobyerno dahil mamamayan niya ang ating mga lola. Yeah? Ibig sabihin, the responsibility of our own government, of the Philippine government, is distinct and separate from the responsibility of the perpetrator itself, Japan. Pero syempre, dito sa CEDAW, nakafocus siya sa responsibilidad mismo ng gobyerno. Ano ang sabi doon? Diba? Tiyakin na magkaroon ng tiyakin ang justisya para sa mga lola, magkaroon, diba, ng pondo at tiyakin ito ng pondo para matulungan ang ating mga lola. Tiyakin na yung bahay na pula ay gawing memorial o kaya iba pang lugar na pwedeng gawing museum o memorial. Tiyakin na kasama sa history, no, sa pag-aaral, sa curriculum, ang nangyari sa ating mga lola. Bakit? Hindi po pwedeng paliwalain ang nangyari sa mga lola dahil simpleng magkaroon ng second generation of comfort women, second generation of the victims of military sexual slavery, if we will not, diba, if this is there, the stories of the lolas are not included in the curriculum. Ito yung mga malino na obligasyon at responsibilidad na sinabi ng United Nations CEDAW, pero walang ginawa ang ating gobyerno. Ano ang ginawa ng ating gobyerno? Una, sa pamamagitan ng DSWD ay binigyan niya ng mga financial assistance, no? Ang mga lola worth 10,000, diba? Yung apo ng lola na 5,000. But these are existing, diba? Benefits, existing welfare benefits ng DSWD. This has nothing to do with the UN CEDAW. This has nothing to do with the recognition of the UN that our lolas are victims and therefore kailangan magkaroon ng fund para sa mga lola dahil sila ay victims of the World War II. Gumawa ng report, no? Required ang maraming bansa na gumawa ng report, no, sa United Nations CEDAW. Nitong October 9, nag-submit ang Pilipinas ng report. Nakakalungkot dahil dun sa report nila, practically hindi nire-recognize, no, ng gobyerno yung kanilang responsibilidad. No? Yung tulong na ibinigay nila, again, hindi yun kasama doon. Hindi yun, no? Hindi yun compliance doon sa UN CEDAW. In fact, nandoon na naman, no, sa 80 years ng tuloy-tuloy, walang yung napagbabato, no, paglilipat ng responsibilidad dito sa Japan, no, at pagsasabi na bayad na yung Japan doon sa tinatawag na reparation treaty. Remember, the reparation treaty has nothing to do with our lolas, with the rape of our lolas.
The reparation treaty has something to do only with the structural damage, to repair the structural damage. Wasak na wasak ang Manila, kaya nagkaroon ng reparation treaty. And indeed, hindi pa pwede talagang isama, di ba, ang mga lolas, because at that time, hindi pa nga lumilitaw ang mga lolas. Hindi pa alam ng mundo na meron silang karumal-dumal, no, na krimen na ginawa noong panahon ng World War II. Kaya sinisingil natin ang ating sariling gobyerno, pero sinisingil din natin siyempre the perpetrator of the crimes of rape, of the military sexual slavery. Diba? Ito yung Japan. Ang lakas naman ng loob ng Japan. Diba? To even visit the Philippines and offer non-lethal equipments sa Pilipinas, samantalang hindi nga niya nire-recognize yung krimen na ginawa niya. Ibig sabihin, nandito ang Japan only, di ba? Para tiyakin yung kanyang seguridad, no? Dahil ang daming gerang nangyayari ngayon at yung kapartner niya na US, di ba? Yung nangunguna sa napakaraming gera sa Ukraine, gera sa Israel. Every day we see children being killed. We see women being killed. This is almost similar to the World War II Japanese occupation. Halos walang pinagkaiba. No? Ito nga buong this is sa Palestine ang ginagawa nga ay genocide. Meaning, itong mga bansa na ito, Japan, US at iba pa, no, na nangunguna sa paggigera ng iba pang bansa, no, sa pagtitiyak ng kanilang kapangyarihan at seguridad na sa region, hindi nga sila bayad sa kanilang mga krimen. Kaya we are really very apprehensive dito sa pagbisita ng Japan, lalo na alam natin that Japan and the Philippines, Japan has been negotiating for RAA or Reciprocal Access Agreement. This is similar to Visiting Forces Agreement. At alam natin that the VFA is simply to protect the US soldiers. Kaya ang ibig sabihin, the Reciprocal Access Agreement is simply to protect the Japanese soldiers. Diba? The Japanese state who has not even paid, who has not even acknowledged, who has not even recognized its crime during the World War II, even has the temerity now, diba, to promote war with the US. Thank you.
At ngayon po, pakinggan muna natin, we are lucky to have Lola Estelita D. Of Lila Filipina with us this morning. Despite being of advanced age, she's already 93 years old. She has never given up on the fight and still continues to be with us and to oppose wars wherever it happens. She's still quite active, in listening to the news. So medyo updated siya. Sige, so Lola.
Good morning. Gandang umaga sa atin lahat, lalo na kay Doctor. Hindi ko makakalimutan. 30 taon na nakakaraan, wala pa kami nag-safety. Dito na naman ngayon si Pumilo Rita para pagpapayaan sa safety. Hindi pa na sa nakabayan ng kanilang napinsala dito sa Pilipinas. Ito, balik na naman sila. Makikiusap naman kay Presidente na payagan sila na mag-exercise dito sa atin sa Pilipinas ang kanyang mga sundalo. Nakakalungkot na hindi pa nila nasasagutan ang kanilang mga napinsala at hindi pa sila nakasagot sa kumputuman dito sa Pilipinas. Sana at matauhan naman ang ating Presidente na isingit sa kanilang pagdayanog ng Pumilo Rita.
So, just a rough translation of what she said.
maybe you can still hear. It is sad that 30 years after we started the campaign for justice, there's no justice yet for comfort women. And Japan and the Japanese Prime Minister even has the temerity to come to the Philippines
to provide and have exercises with our own military people.
So she is also demanding that President Marcos hopefully realizes that he has the responsibility to take up the comfort women issue, and that she demands that this issue be taken up in the dialogue between the two state leaders.
Okay, let me introduce Dr. Tanzo. Walang tumutulong sa mga lola, kami-kami lang. Kaya si Dr. Tan, mga estudyante niya, umiikot kuminsan helping the lolas, visit them, check them up for medical help. Tatlong demand ko na, siguro tatlong sulat ko sa Department of Health na responsibility nila under the CEDAW resolution as one of the interagency task force na tulungan these very few, you can count in the fingers of your hands, the very few survivors. It's a very little to do for them. But no, walang action. Kaya mga private initiative, now we have the students of Metropolitan Hospital, students of Far Eastern University, my students ni Dr. Tan Chotyong, who go around, kasi hindi na sila makalabas eh. Pero kami na lang, going house to house, and then we help provide sometimes care packages when we have some funds collected. Very minimal, no? But these are not the responsibilities of the lolas or this organization. We help whenever we can, but this is the responsibility of the Philippine government that it refuses to recognize. No? Kaya panawagan nga, sabi ni Lola, isingit man lang ninyo, no? Insert this into your dialogue, but then also do your part. Thank you.
President, nagbigay siya dati ng instruction order to all the members of the executive branch, to all government institutions to help the lolas. Yun, kaya din agad sumulat ang Flowers for Lolas sa Department of Health. Of course, ang DSWD nag-take agad ng initiative to help the lolas. Again, these are existing welfare benefits ng DSWD. More than this, ang kailangan natin yung the War Reparation Fund, the rehabilitation, the genuine public apology, of course, and the inclusion of this doon sa curriculum because that's what the UN CEDAW says. Ayun. Kaya, yun yung mga demands na dapat ginagawa din talaga ng gobyerno, along of course, doon sa talagang pag-order niya sa mga government agencies to help the lolas. Ito nga, yung sa Department of Health, kailangan ng tulong ng mga lolas natin kaugnay ng kanilang kalusugan. Pero nakatatlong sulat, ni hindi man lang sumagot. No? Hindi ko alam kung Department of Health pa yung matatawag na yan. No? Anyway, kaya ang Flowers for Lolas ay nandito ngayon. I mean, to express yung demands ng Malaya Lolas, ng Lila Filipina, ng Flowers for Lolas, on behalf of all victims of military sexual slavery, military violence, and of course, the Comfort Women System.
Okay, thank you very much, Virgie. Baka meron po tayo other questions from our friends in the media.
Good morning, I'm Celerina Monte from NHK, Japan Broadcasting Corporation. Some questions regarding the shrines or monuments or whatever, they have any like statistics estimate as to how many yung meron tayo regarding the sexual slavery or comfort women. And right now, we have also an estimate kung ilan pa yung buhay or among the lolas. And kay Attorney Suarez, you have mentioned that the report of CEDAW or about the recognition of these victims of sexual slavery or comfort women were not even part of the report. So, what could be the next action of your group? That's it.
Sige, yung munang shrines and statues, no, wala, zero. There were 2 that were put up recently, no? Isa dun sa Laguna and then ours in Rojas, but both of them were removed, forcibly, secretly removed by the government. Nakakahiya, we are the only government that succumbed to Japanese pressure. Sydney, they even pulled out the ambassador. San Francisco, they also pulled up, but none of them succumbed to Japanese pressure. We are the only government who kowtowed and bowed before the Japanese pressure and removed the comfort women statue. And remember, in Pampanga, they have a shrine for kamikaze soldiers who strafed and bombed civilians and killed civilians. They have a shrine to honor these kamikaze soldiers. Nakakahiya talaga. And even sa Kaliraya, the former Japanese minister also went there to honor their war dead, no? But they refused to honor our own comfort women and recognize the crimes that they committed.
Yung sa CEDAW, no, the Center Law, of course, as well as the Flowers for Lolas are, we already made initial comments, and we are actually finalizing our comment to the report made by the government. Of course, there are so many NGOs who have also made a report to the CEDAW, and several of these NGOs have actually included the issue of the Malaya Lolas. But considering the reports made by the Philippine government, we will be submitting a comment or a counter position to the report made by the government. That it is not actually in compliance with the CEDAW or the UN CEDAW resolution.
Yeah, we thank the Commission on Human Rights for taking the initiative to form the interagency task force. It has failed. Hindi pa nangyari. Hindi na nangyari. We were supposed to meet have the first meeting of the interagency task force, but none of them were supposedly available. So we have not. It is a part of a CEDAW resolution to have the interagency task force. So this is also our chance to ask public opinion, public pressure from the media to immediately form that interagency task force so that we can formalize the fund, the reparation fund for the comfort women, no, not just the token funds being given by the DSWD. Salamat.
Ay, kanina hindi nasagot yung tanong kung ilan na lang ang ating mga lolas. Ang Malaya Lolas, when the case was filed before the United Nations CEDAW, 24 sila. No? Pero ngayon, nung lumabas yung CEDAW resolution, 20 sila. Pero last month, namatayan ulit tayo ng isang miyembro ng Malaya Lolas, kaya 19 na lang. Ang Lila Filipina has 9 lolas. No? Kaya practically, we have 90 plus 9, di ba? Meron tayong 38 na lolas. Second, sa buong mundo na merong pinakamaraming survivors, no? Na mga lolas. Ang number 1 is Indonesia. Sa Japan, sa Taiwan, parang isa na lang yata or talagang marami lahat namatay na. Talaga, ano ibig sabihin, no? Tumamatay na yung ating mga lolas. No? They deserve justice.
Some of the victims were as young as 12 years old. That's why many of the survivors are those who were 12 and 13, no, when this happened.
Or 80 years, I should mention that this is November, no? November 23 is the siege of Mapanike. November 23 is the day when 1943, when the Mapanike was attacked by the Japan. Talagang karumal-dumal because Mapanike is the seat of Ukbalaha, diba? Of the resistance movement. That's why targeted talaga ng Japan itong Mapanike. But then pagdating nila doon, lahat ng members ng Hukbalahap wala na doon. Ang natira ay mga kalalakihan ng mga civilian. All these men were killed. Yung isa, pinutulan ng ari, isinubo sa bibig mismo ng lalaki. Yung isa, binalatan ng buhay. And all of them, anong ginawa? They were killed at gunpoint at sama-sama silang sinunog. All these were made in front of the girls of Mapanike, who at that time were aged 9 to 13 to 14. I mean, and that is, I mean, diba, that is violence. Pero hindi nasapatan doon because these girls ay dinala, no, sa bahay na pula at doon marami sa kanila ay pinagsamantalahan. So, yan, November 23 is the siege of Mapanike. Sakto na this November ay narito tayo ngayon para pag-usapan itong bagay na to at para ipakita dito sa Japan's Prime Minister at sa sarili nating gobyerno ang ating disgusto dahil sa tuloy-tuloy nilang pagbabaliwala at hindi pagtitiyak sa hustisya para sa ating mga lola. Okay, Dr. Tan Chochong.
Yeah, I have a question. Were there reports of Muslim women being made victims of sexual slavery?
Any other questions?
Good morning. Kathy Cruz po sa DZXL ang ating Katipunan every Sunday 7 to 9 and the Katipunan channel. Gusto ko lang pong malaman kung dumating po ba kayo sa punto na nag-courtesy call kayo mismo, hindi lang sa presidente, kundi mismo sa Supreme Court Justice para, kasi sabi nyo nga kanina, pumunta na kayo ng sa Commission on Human Rights. Walang nangyari. Dun sa sana ay interagency task force. So, kung walang mangyari sa executive, baka naman sa judiciary, magkaroon kayo ng considering na may decision naman o utos ang United Nations sila. Ako. The Supreme Court, it is actually the Supreme Court in 2012 when the Supreme Court dismissed the case of the Malaya Lolas. Anong kaso yon? It's a writ of mandamus. Simpleng kaso yon sa Supreme Court para pilitin, no? Orderan ng Supreme Court, ang Executive Department, ang Philippine Government para dalhin o pitpitin. Ipaglaban ang kaso ng mga Malaya Lolas, no? 2004 it was filed, di ba? 8 years tumagal sa Supreme Court. Pagkatapos ang sasabihin lang ng Supreme Court ay nakakaawa naman talaga ang ating mga lola, pero wala kaming magagawa. Dahil ang pakikipaglaban para sa mga lola is a political issue that only the government can decide and that it is beyond the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. We have no intention of going to the Supreme Court. Precisely, the reason why we went out of the United Nations, we went out of our country because all the legal remedies here ay nagawa na pero walang nangyari.
Kasi hindi ka makakapunta sa United Nations o makakalabas ng bansa kapag hindi mo inavail ang mga legal remedies dito. Tapos na dito. Ang maliwanag, meron na uling desisyon ang United Nations CEDAW, diba? Para sa ating sariling gobyerno. Pero hanggang ngayon, wala pa rin ginagawa. Kanina meron tanong, ano na ba ang mga natanggap ng mga lolas natin, no? Again, tulong mula sa DSWD, which is not again in compliance with the CEDAW resolution. Sa hindi po pag-aksyon ng gobyerno ng Pilipinas sa utos ng UN CEDAW, ano po ang kaparusahan o kung meron man? At sino ba ang magpapataw United Nations? Please, carry sa. Yung CEDAW is an expert committee, ang isang treaty monitoring body, ano? So it can remind, it can advocate, it can but it cannot enforce. Unlike the UN Security Council, which is a body within the UN, enforceable ang kanyang mga resolutions. So what the other bodies like CEDAW and other bodies of the United Nations can do is to clarify universal standards of international law and of human rights, and urge states to abide by its recommendations. Pero yun na yun, unfortunately, it's a big thing din naman in the sense that the world, the world's attention gets to be focused on issues that are being taken up by the United Nations. But in the end, it really all boils down to the political will of the executive department. And that is really the problem with the executive department of the Philippine government, no? Japan remains as the #1, the biggest creditor country, no, to the Philippines. And in fact, right now, in the meeting yesterday between President Marcos and Prime Minister Kishida, I think one of the issues that were taken up was yung Japanese official development assistance dun sa mga big railroad projects that the Marcos government is doing. And we all know how big development projects or foreign assisted projects are also big sources of graft and corruption for high government officials in the country. So this is a very, very extremely actually favorable arrangement between the Japanese government, which by the way is also trying to use its official development assistance as a tool to soften its military demands on the Philippine government. Very, very extremely favorable arrangement for the two governments, no, for the Japanese and the Philippine government officials. But we do pin our hopes on Philippine Congress. Medyo mas mas diverse ang Philippine Congress natin. And we really hope that Philippine Congress will not just kowtow to what Malacanang will say or what Japan will say regarding the issue of this mutual access agreement, and also on the issue of the justice for Filipino comfort women. In fact, a few weeks back, as part of the lobbying campaign for the national budget, we also submitted letters to several congressmen urging them to take up the matter of the reparations fund for Filipino comfort women in the 2024 national budget. Although there's not yet an enabling law for this, no, but the enabling law can be part of the measures that the congressmen can take in making the reparations fund a reality for the victims, not only the comfort women, but all other victims of military sexual violence and even victims of forced labor, by the way. No? Napakarami ring mga Pilipino noong World War II. For your information, people like Dolphy, for instance, yung kilalang komedyante, no? He was also a victim of forced labor by the Japanese Imperial Army.
So napakaraming mga ganyang kaso pero hindi pa masyadong na articulate. So yung ganong demand natin, kung magsisimula na maitayo yung isang reparations fund for the victims of military sexual violence, all other victims of Japanese imperial rule in World War II, I'm sorry, can also take lessons from that initial effort. So it's very, very important that we reiterate the calls for justice for Filipino comfort women, especially at this time when Japan is trying, Japan and the US are trying to consolidate the security triad that they are forming with the Philippine government. But being the weakest nation in that triad, we will become just a pawn. This mutual access agreement will not be a mutual thing. It will only be a license for the unhampered movement of Japanese troops in the country, but that privilege will never be given to Filipino soldiers. So it is a matter of patriotism, it is a matter of the defense of our sovereignty. It is a matter of defending the honor and dignity of our nation, our people, especially our comfort women, that we do not agree to having this mutual access arrangement or agreement with Japan, and that we end all forms of foreign military domination and control over the country.
Kaya itong mga ibibigay ng Japan ngayon ng mga non-lethal equipments, no? This is really a prelude or in pursuance of the reciprocal access agreement na gustong bumuin ng Japan at ng Philippines, no? There has to be a law, no? The United Nations CEDAW is a resolution. The Philippine government is a signatory of the CEDAW. Kaya kapag nagkakaroon ng resolution, to enforce that, there has to be a law, a local law. Kaya nga, because of the CEDAW, nagkaroon tayo ng Magna Carta of Women, no? Because of the CEDAW, nagkaroon tayo ng mga iba't ibang batas para sa kababaihan. Now, with the CEDAW resolution on para dito sa ating mga lolas, there has to be a law. Yun yung dahilan to enforce that. Yun yung dahilan kung bakit we're pinning our hope sa ating Congress. Because once the Congress has made a law, kaugnay ng CEDAW resolution, gumawa siya ng batas para magkaroon ng War Reparation Fund, gumawa siya ng batas para sa inclusion, no, sa curriculum, gumawa ng batas para sa rehabilitation ng mga lola, at ng batas para doon sa memorial ng mga lola. Dahil kapag may batas na, diba, the executive branch, of course, cannot but implement or execute the law. And that's the reason why tinatawagan natin ang ating kongreso, ang ating mga senador, ang ating mga congressman na gawin niyo yung trabaho niyo para sa mga lola. 80 taon na ang nakakaraan. Paubos na ang ating mga lola. Yun man lang magawa niyo para sa ating mga lola.
Another question lang po. Curious lang po ako kung may pagkakataon po ba na nag-attempt po kayo na magkaroon ng courtesy call sa kay Pangulong Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos. Kasi kung hindi lahat na ginagawa nyo kung hindi nyo madaan sa legal, hindi nyo rin madaan sa kalsada, probably kung diretso mismo sa presidente, baka aksyonan niya.
When he went on a state visit sa Japan when was that, early this year, di ba? We came out with a statement demanding or asking that he take up the matter with the then Prime Minister, I think it was Prime Minister Ishida, no? But Malacanang came out with a statement the day after saying that the matter of the comfort women has already been resolved and will not be taken up. So instead, we would learn later when President Marcos comes back that instead of the justice for comfort women, it was the war, arrangements for war that they discussed. And in fact, that was the occasion for a protest action that was staged by the Flowers for Lolas in March, first week of March 2023.
Yung sa Japan Embassy. Yung po ba yun? Yung sa Japan Embassy? I remember.
So are there other questions? I think from NHK would like to ask.
Hello, good morning po sa lahat. Rapiri ko po, papapublisher ng non-quick balita. Ma'am, ngayon lang kasi ako naka-attend, ano? Kaya, tatanong ko lang po kasi yung mga dalaga po natin nung panahon ng hapon, na ngayon nga ay $38 na lang. At saka yung mga namatay po, meron na po bang nakatanggap ng compensation galing sa Japan government?
Never pa po nagkaroon ng compensation from the Japanese government. Yung Asian Women's Fund na itinayo nila noong 1990s were actually donations also from private citizens and private corporations, which they were already doing. Ginagawa naman na nila even before the Asian Women's Fund was established. Ang ibinigay noon na apology were private letters of apology by their state leader. I forgot the name of the Prime Minister at the time. Pero private apology po yun na hindi na-translate into an official policy of the Japanese government. And therefore, dahil hindi siya policy, it did not become an obligation for the succeeding governments para i-honor yon. At true enough, nung napalitan yung Prime Minister at napumalit si Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, doon na nagsimula yung parang in effect de facto policy ng Japanese government, not only to deny the comfort women narrative, but also to remove all statues and other memorialization, not only of actual statues, but also yung pagbawi dun sa naging reference to the comfort women narrative in Japanese textbooks. Kaya sa ngayon, walang alam ang mga kabataang Hapon hinggil sa totoong naging papel ng Japan noong World War II. Ang alam nila, yung narrative na binibigay ng gobyerno sa kanila, Japan was the savior of Asia against the white imperialists of the time, yung white imperialists of the time, and that Japan was planning to establish an East Asia prosperity sphere, parang siya yung magdadala ng prosperidad dito sa ating bansa, when in fact what it was doing was to occupy the nation, and it was brutalizing our people, our women, our young children. There were several reports of young babies being bayoneted, pregnant women na pinayoneta rin nung panahon na yon. So very may may pagka-eerie, yung similarity sa nangyayari noong World War II, tsaka yung sa nangyayari ngayon. Of course, not exactly the same thing is happening, but there are shades of World War II that we are seeing in the moves that are being done by Japan right now in the country.
Ma'am, sakali po, kung sakaling ita-charge po natin ang Japan government, kung magkano ang pwedeng bayaran sa bawat isang lolas natin, magkano po kaya ang pwedeng matanggap ng bawat lolas? Partikular po yung mga buhay pa sa ngayon.
Never yan pumasok sa aming mga discussions. Ang importante, una, yung reparations should be preceded by a formal public official apology from the Japanese government. Pangalawa, it should be substantial. Kasi we are talking actually of disrupted lives, of a substantial number of Filipino women and Filipino families. Disruption ng entire nation yan from which we are still suffering the consequences. Sa case ng mga Filipino comfort women, for instance, most of them never got to enter formal employment because they never got to finish their education. Most of them, like Lola Estelita here, lived in poverty until now. Most of their second and even the third line of descendants still live in poverty. Although may mga ilang pamilya na nagkaroon din naman ng konting income, and then most of them never really also, or many of them, never had normal lives after the war. never had normal marriages, normal family lives. In fact, may mga cases pa nga na iniwan ng mga asawa nung malaman na sila ay nagahasa ng mga Hapon. No? And they lived with this burden for how many years? 50 years? No? Until nangyari itong Comfort Women Campaign for Justice. So yun lang, yung sa usapin ng compensation.
Ang Lola Pilipina ay naninindigan na ayaw na namin ng gera. Dahil kung may gera, ang nangyari sa amin, mangyayari uli sa bagong mga henerasyon. Kailangan wala ng gera.
I'm talking of trauma, mental health. Kumusta ba ngayon yung mga buhay pa nating mga lola at kumusta rin ba yung kanilang mga anak? Kasi kanina sabi mo kayo, di ba, dumating sa punto na hiniwalayan ng asawa nung nalaman na, no? So, devastating talaga for the whole family. You destroy the Filipino families because of that. Nakakalungkot. And yet, somehow parang walang nangyayari sa sa mga laban ninyo. So, hanggang saan ba tayo lalaban? Hanggang saan ba lalaban ang Lilag Pilipina, ang Flowers for Lolas?
Yung laban na ito, hindi na lang naman ito. This is no longer just the fight of the Filipino comfort women, although justice for them remains a core objective of the campaign. You know, wars are still happening all over the world. Even in our own country, ito nga, yung magiging implications nitong control of the US, Japan, military alliance dito sa bansa natin. No? Very important that, and even sila Lola would say, no, si Lola Espinita would often tell us, I do not expect justice in my lifetime. Sabi niya. Pero, sabi niya, what is important to me is that young people do not experience what we experience. No, wag mangyari sa mga kabataan ngayon at kabataan ng susunod na salidlahi yung mga naranasan nila. Si Lola Isa nga, the other day, nagkukwento siya nung mabalitaan niya yung mga nangyayari sa Palestine, naalala din niya na sila daw talagang noon para in order for them to survive because there was also no water, no food in World War II. So she was describing this pile of carabao dung that sort of collects water from the rain and that she had to learn to drink in order to survive. No? So ganun kahirap. So as long as there are wars happening in the world, as long as there are wars of aggression, as long as there are colonial wars happening in various parts of the world, we will continue our campaign for justice, not only for our lolas, but all other women victims of military sexual violence, all other nations being torn apart and disrupted by colonial wars or wars of strength. Meron pa po bang tanong? Kasi kung wala na, tatapusin na po natin ang ating press conference ngayong umaga. Maraming salamat po sa inyong pagdalo at sana ay maging katulong namin kayo sa pagpaparinig ng aming mga kahilingan hindi lamang sa ating sariling gobyerno kundi sa buong daigdig. Maraming salamat po.
Maraming salamat. Remember, violence happening elsewhere is actually violence committed against all of us. Sabihin, ano tayo, di ba, ang daming gerang nangyayari. Ito mga nangyari sa ating mga lola, ay kitang-kita natin na nangyayari sa Ukraine, nangyayari sa Palestine. So we do everything to make a position para to stop the war. No? Itong mga raming gera na ito, pinagkikitaan. Ba? Wars kill. And yet many nations also profit from war. Kaya we should not allow, we should condemn our government for allowing itself to be dragged by US and Japan sa mga gera nito. Maraming salamat.
Closing on behalf of the Flowers for Lolas campaign, Maraming salamat po sa Kamuning Bakery, kay Wilson May Flores na nagpahiram nitong lugar. And thank you to the members that make up Flowers for Lola's campaign, sa Lila Pilipinas, sa Malaya Lolas, at iba-iba pang grupo. No? Maraming salamat, lalo na sa media. Help us put public opinion and public pressure on this issue. Salamat po.
Okay, so yun mga kaibigan, ang naging ginawang Pandesal Forum dyan po sa may Quezon City, kung saan nga po, ayun, yung pong isang grupo ay no to war, no? At humingi nga ng justice for all Filipino comfort women. At parang same ng parang same ng advocacy ng One Gun Pilipinas na yun nga, same advocacy, justice for comfort women and no to war. Siyempre, sino ba may gusto ng giyera? Wala, siyempre, di ba po? Lahat gusto kapayapaan, pagkakaisa, lahat yan. Tsaka siyempre, hustisya para sa mga naapi, hustisya para sa mga naagrabyado. So yun po. Okay mga kaibigan, alas 7:25 na ng gabi, Philippine Standard Time. Magandang gabi po sa hepe ng One Gun Pilipinas, no? Si Corixman. At ganyan din kay Kuya Bin Pasya ng Caloocan Bantayog Eagles Club. Magandang gabi sa iyo, Kuya Bin Pasya. At ganyan din kay Bro Enteng Diaz ng Barangay Tagalag dyan sa Valenzuela City. At ganyan din kay Kuya Joey Ortiz ng Payatas dyan sa QC. Maraming salamat, Kuya Joey. At siyempre, ayun, kay Brian Anyosa, kay Kuya Kagawad Brian Anyosa ng Kulyat dyan sa Quezon City pa rin. At siyempre, magandang gabi rin sa ating mga kaganer, sa lahat po ng miyembro at kasapi ng One Gun Pilipinas. O yan, December 9 and 10, meron tayong meet and greet. Tama ba yun, Kuyang Corixman? Lahat po ng mga nakapaloob sa One Gun Pilipinas, mga miyembro at kasapi, magkita-kita-kits po tayo. At siyempre, pwede pa ho sa Bulacan, magkikita pa rin tayo sa Bulacan area. Okay, so mga kaibigan, yan po, at sana mabigyan na at maisara na itong kaso na ito. No, yung mga lolas natin na naging biktima ng karahasan noong panahon ng, sabi nga, ng Hapon. Marami rahong mga nilapastangan, na meron pa rin pinatay na mga kapwa natin Pilipino. Kaya kinukundina nila ang Japanese. Okay mga kaibigan, sa oras na alas 7:27 po ng gabi, magpapaalam muna po ang inyong lingkod at muli tayo magbabalik bukas. Tingnan natin kung makakapag-live tayo bukas dahil bukas ang dami nating lakad Meron tayong mga asikasuhin, may kukunin pa tayo sa National Press Club. So, tingnan natin kung makakapag-eri po tayo pagdating natin. Muli po mga kaibigan, at maraming salamat din kay Boss Mark Castro, aking cameraman sa TV5. Ako po yung naging kasama, naging kajaming, kakuya, kaate, kabunso, at syempre, ako yung naging kakosa, no? Dito po sa kabarangay, dito po sa programang T.R.O.P.A. Muli po, ako yung naging kasama, ROCEL Lopez. Magandang gabi Pilipinas at mapayapang magdamag. Magandang gabi po.
Now,
talakayin.
Biggest destruction of dangerous drugs worth 1.
Rebisahin. Opinyon. Malawakin. Aksyonan. Kasama si Rosel Lopez, ang inyong katropa sa pagbabalita. Dito lang sa Millennial Online TV. Tutok na mga katropa!
Ikaw ba'y nag-isa? Nalulungkot dahil iniwan at ipinagpalit niloko ng iyong minamahal. Kung ngayon, i-type sa inyong mga cellphone, Facebook o YouTube man ang Millennial Online TV. Dahil nasa Millennial Online TV na ang online realista ng bagong milenyo, si Randel Villanos.
Sana'y di magmaliw ang dati kong araw nang di pang bata sa piling ni nanay. Nais kong mauli ang awit ninang mahal. You are the one who makes me happy when everything else turns to gray. Walk on through the rain. Walk on through the rain. Though your dreams be tossed and walk on with hope in your heart.
At haharanahin kayo ni Randel ng iba't ibang awitin para maibsan ang inyong inip at kalungkutan kahit nasaan man kayo.
Hanggang sa tumanda. Come on. Matanda na, sana'y di tayo magbago.
At pwede rin kayong makidulit kay Randel tuwing Huwebes ng hapon. Ano pa hinihintay nyo mga kamilenyo? Tawag na!
Araw-araw ikaw ang gusto kong
Hanap mo ba ay Unwind Ventures? Tara nang mamangha sa mga tanawin. Ano man ang iyong travel goals? Dadalhin namin kayo. Sa Unwind Ventures at saya. Dito lang sa Wow Biyahe. Kaya wow, di ba?
Abangan dito lang sa Millennial Online TV. Barangay, pangunahing unit ng pamahalang lokal kung saan dito pinag-uusapan ang bawat sinalot ng mga residente ng bawat barangay. Dito rin pinag-uusapan ng mga piling hanggang na opisyal na barangay ang mga proyekto para sa kanilang barangay. Kumustahin natin ang panunungkulan ni Kapitan dito sa Dalo Barangay sa Millennial Online TV worldwide, ang katropa ng bawat barangay.
Ating tinatapos ang ating pagpupulong. Maraming salamat po sa inyong pagdalo at tapos na po ang ating session. Enjoy na po tayo.
Responsable ka ng gun owner? At mahaba ba ang iyong pasensya? At hindi ba intin ang iyong ulo? Alam mo rin ba ang batas hinggil sa pag-iingat ng baril o firearms? Kung hindi,
A responsible gun owner.
Are you a responsible gun owner?
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 Are you a responsible gun owner? The PNP Civil Security Group would like to advise all firearms holders to renew their license to own and possess firearms and firearms registration within 6 months before its expiry date. Tumawag na at makipag-ugnayan.
Be a responsible gun owner.
One Gun Pilipinas ang sagot, mga katropa at kagangers. Dahil ituturo sa inyo ng One Gun Pilipinas o OGP ang lahat ng legal na paraan at proseso upang ikaw ay maging isang responsableng gun owners. Ano pa hinihintay nyo, mga kagangers? Sali na sa One Gun Pilipinas ngayon na! Responsable ka bang pinaigting, pinalakas ang bagong news online TV ng bagong milenyo. Millennial Online TV, ang katropa mo sa pagbabalita.
Hi, this is Pangilari ka doon. Nananawagan ako sa ating mga katropa, no? At mga kaibigan, mga kababayan, na palaging tumutok sa
Millennial
Online TV. At yan ay pinangunahan. At yan ay pinangangasiwaan ng aking kaibigan na si ROCEL. At ang mga nanunood dyan ay hindi bobo!
Mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Kayang magiliw, ewas ng sinakanan, alam ng puso, sa titik mo'y buhay. Upang hinirang, kuya ka ng magiting, sa manlulupin, di ka pasisigil, sa nagatak tutok sa simoy at sa langit mong bangaw, ay hinatang tulad, awit sa pagkayang minamahal. Ang isang ng matawad mo'y tagumpay na naghihingi, ang bituin at araw niya kailan pa may di maghihingi. Luman ang araw ng walhagit pagsinta, buhay langit sa piling ko. Ang inigaya ng pagkay mga amin, at mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Sa lahat ng bumubuo ng Millennial Online TV at sa lahat po ng sumusuporta, maraming salamat po. Millennial Online TV is now signing off.